Good morning, everyone. We are so excited to be here, especially in a room full of very accomplished, impressive people. My name is Eliza Bray. I'm Director of Merchant Success at Bread Financial. I'm as surprised as you are that I'm here at an analytics conference. But I'm joined by Mindy, Billingham and Corbett, and I was tasked with taking up the front to give an introduction, first to our business, and then to how we'll structure today's panel. So let's see if this works. Data to dollars, using data to power the revenue engine. So the three of us work for Bread Financial, which is a Columbus-based business, previously known as Alliance Data Systems, so I suspect any Ohio locals are familiar. But we are a company that's all across the United States, as well as having some global offices, so I'm actually based in Brooklyn, New York. Bread Financial is a financial services company, as the name would lead you to believe. We do a host of products, both B2B2C, as the brand behind the brands or next to the brands, like our private label credit cards, as well as our buy now, pay later product, which Asia and I will speak to. But we also have a lot of direct-to-consumer offerings increasingly, like lending and saving solutions. I gotta slow down. With that, I will begin to hand the mic to Mindy. Our plan today is for each of us to talk for 10 minutes about our respective disciplines. I'm going to skip that slide. Both Mindy and Asia, to sort of spoil the lead, are product owners of sorts that create a host of tools and dashboards that internal users like myself use to drive revenue for the business. So we'll each talk for 10 minutes. I think we're running a little tight on time, and so we are unlikely to have Q&A, but we hope that you find us after all is said and done. So with that, I will pass it to you, Mindy.
Thank you. All right. Excellent. I know how to use a clicker still, so that's exciting. Hey, so thank you, Eliza. My name is Mindy Billingham, as you heard. I've been at Bread Financial for about a year and a half. And some things you should know about me. First, I moved north from Columbus, Ohio to Sandusky, which is seated on the Sandusky Bay, which opens out to Lake Erie, about 2 years ago. It was a COVID move, totally will own that. And it was great. I have to say, I'm not unhappy with it, though it's a little bit of a Rust Belt town. They're really doing a revitalization, and when I walk my dog, I walk her down couple blocks, hit the pier, walk out on the pier, look at the water, look at Cedar Point, Marblehead. It's a wonderful quality of life. Speaking of dog, the other thing you should know about me is that I have a puppy who's about to turn 1 year old, and that's amazing that we've gotten to this point. I'm obsessed with her, as you can see. She's adorable. Her name is Millie. I'm open to talking about dogs anytime. Anybody wants to hit me up later. And I'm very proud of her. She's recently been promoted to branch manager, as you can see. I didn't actually come here to talk about my dog or my move to Sandusky. I came to talk about how the tools that we use at Bread Financial are driving our next generation analytics. I'm going to start by talking about who I am and what I do for Bread. Then we will, I'll switch gears a little bit, talk about the tools that we're using, the benefits that we're seeing from those, and then wrap up with a use case that is just a real world example of where we were able to benefit. What I do for Bread Financial, yes, Eliza did spoil the lead just a little bit. I am a product owner and sometimes product manager for our data science and analytic tools. I was brought in specifically for our modern analytics tool workstream. It is a part of a much larger data strategy program, the goal of which is to sort of lift the boat organizationally across all of the data capabilities. After about 6 months, they asked me to take over the transformative analytics data science modernization workstream, which is our data science tools. So I started on our analytics tools, and then I got into our data science tools. With modern analytics, we are focused primarily on Dataiku. We have other tools. This is the one we're really invested in. And we've been using Dataiku for about 2 years now. We will be about 2 years now, and we're heavily focused on adoption value realization, which is essentially just how do we get the most out of what we have. And I've mentioned capability uplift. I love to talk about that, but that's about taking that analyst persona and sort of lifting their ability to be effective and building that muscle organizationally. From the data science standpoint, I own Databricks and Azure ML. We've been using Databricks for a couple years. Our data scientists are pretty comfortable with it, but there's still work to be done, and our focus now is on ML ops and deep learning. If you're not familiar with ML ops, it's similar to DevOps, but for models. And when you think about a model, models need to go to production and be deployed to get value. And ML ops is focused on getting them there faster, automating that, and monitoring your model performance. For deep learning, and I'll talk about this a little more, but deep learning, if you're not familiar with that phrase, that is essentially models that are built using neural networks. And it is a pretty big umbrella. It includes some subcategories like LLMs and our friend ChatGPT. I know everybody knows those, right? So let's shift into why are we doing all this work? Like, why are we bothering? And the big thing is modern tools are critically important if you're an organization trying to do any kind of analytics or data science. If you are using that old tool from the 90s that everybody knows and loves, you know, the one 3-letter acronym. Look, if that's your tool, I am going to have to tell you that it is time to modernize, because these newer tools offer a ton of value. It supports people who maybe can't code or don't want to code, and gives them the ability to self-serve on analytics. It supports coders by giving them visual tools to do the easy things and let them code the things that they want to code. So it meets across personas there. There's built-in collaboration features, and things like Git built in, so you don't have people saving things on their desktop, and it's also web-based. So we have lots of ways that people can interact, again, with staying away from using our desktops. Expandable compute is absolutely critical. If you think about the volume of data, I mean, it's almost trite to talk about how quickly data is growing. People need ways to be able to process that amount of data, even doing just day-to-day analytics, and our modern tools support that. And that leads into the data science side. Why would we want data science tools? Or modern data science tools? Why not just like write some Python on your desktop? And expandable compute is critical if you're doing any kind of large data. Obviously, they've got integrated IDEs, notebooks, things like that. AutoML is probably one of the critical features. If you're not using AutoML, you should be. If you're not familiar with that, AutoML is simply automating model selection. If you you basically take your data set and you feed it in with some parameters, how long you want to run, you may restrict to certain algorithms and let it rip. AutoML will go through those things. It'll run for your data and tell you which is the best algorithm, versus in the past, people basically have to go through and manually run those to choose and figure out what's best here. Data science tools that are modernized have integrated data governance, or not data governance, but governance features. And we all know we're all responsible AI users, right? We all have governance on our models. And so being able to integrate that smooths out that path. And finally, I talked a little bit about ML ops, but this is critically important. One of the things that people need to think about or realize with an ML ops implementation is that it provides benefit by speeding your path to market for your models. We don't do models because they're fun. We do them because they offer business benefits, and many times they offer monetary benefits, right? Whether they're saving dollars or generating revenue. A model that has a benefit that gets into production faster is going to provide dollars to your bottom line immediately. And I think if you're not in the data science world, you probably don't realize that the line between building a model and getting it into production can be slow and painful, especially when you're thinking about all of the manual steps that have to happen in between. So enabling MLOps is critically important for a modern ecosystem. I'm going to switch gears now and talk a little bit about a specific use case where we saw a benefit for our modern tools. And Eliza did, I don't know if you mentioned it in the beginning, but
Briefly.
Bread Financial wasn't always Bread Financial. Bread Financial is actually, oh, I skipped ahead, didn't I? I did.
You mentioned ADS and BreadPay on the slide.
I did,
so
didn't I? Okay, so
can't hurt.
interesting. So we're going to talk a little bit about actually the benefits of modern tools are new features and new efficiencies. But we have a specific use case that we saw a benefit, and that was relating to the integration of Alliance Data, which was the old company, and the new company of the fintech, BreadPay. And sort of when these companies joined, you know, everybody gets really excited when there's a purchase or a integration, but that doesn't happen overnight, right? But you have to explain that to leaders who immediately want integrated data, right? They don't want to wait, they want it now. And there were significant barriers to entry to be able to get that data. People had to request network access to the other network. They had to request database access. Sometimes we had to open firewalls for individual users. And so when you think about the number of analysts across an organization all suddenly trying to get at this data, it was a horribly painful process. Now, with Dataiku, we were able to take Dataiku and do that firewall process, cut across the network, and now people simply had to enter a request in a form to get their database username and password, save their credentials in Dataiku. Not only could they now query the databases for BreadPay, but they were able to integrate it directly inside of Dataiku with the Alliance Data data. So big benefit there. When we went live with that, I personally got 30 emails from users. These are just the people who bothered to email me saying, thank you, oh my God, this is awesome. These are the kinds of things that provide a capability uplift to your organization and a benefit that you can see from modern tools. Now with that, I'm going to hand it over to Asia.
Thank you. So I'm Asia Corbett. I am a senior revenue operations manager focused on go-to-market strategy and analysis for the BreadPay part of Bread Financial, so the fintech side. I also included a picture of my furry animal there, Leela, my cat. She's very mischievous, so you can see she has 2 cones on her head, because cats are so flexible that they can kind of wiggle out and still get to things even with the smaller cone. So she has 2 cones on her. I have other pets that I could also talk about all day, but I'll save that for after the conference. I also included a picture there of my team, the RevOps team, at Dreamforce, which is Salesforce's big once-a-year party in San Francisco. So revenue operations has been around for a while, but I've spent most of my career in some sort of go-to-market, sales, operations, marketing operations role. And for BreadPay, we have structured our team with 2 senior managers, an enablement function, and a systems admin to really support the revenue organization. So teams like Eliza's, sales, marketing, our solutions and integrations team. So our team mission statement is to accelerate B2B revenue and optimize servicing through automation analytics, and knowledge for Bread Financial's commercial organization. What that really means is we're constantly thinking of ways that we can automate business processes, deliver insights, and train our teams so that they can do their jobs better, which is bring more revenue into the company. And just to give you a picture of what revenue operations looks like, it's really built on 4 pillars: processes, systems, data, and enablement, and sits sort of in the middle of all of these different go-to-market and revenue teams. So sales is there, marketing, Eliza's team, the success team, finance. A lot of times, these teams are doing different business processes, all in their own lanes, and our team kind of comes together and makes sure that everything connects, everything flows, so there's continuity between each team and ultimately supporting end customers. The process pillar, you can think of business processes like the sales pipeline management or marketing campaigns like a conference or ads, customer onboarding, renewals. Those are all business processes, and we support optimizing those. The systems that we use is technology like CRMs, marketing automation platforms, sales productivity tools, other tools. All of these things come integrated together in the go-to-market tech stack that users like Eliza and our team, the revenue operations team, is managing and making sure that those integrations don't break, and then feeding into the data pillar, which I'll focus the most on. Revenue operations does deal with a level of data, not quite to Mindy's department, but we are doing analysis in tools, and we provide those insights to the go-to-market teams to help drive their strategies. And the final piece is enablement. So that's training and making sure that the teams adopt the processes, the systems, know how to define their metrics and their KPIs, read dashboards and reports so that they can do their jobs. I wanted to include here a picture of the technology landscape, if you will, different tools that we typically encounter in revenue operations. You can see some big names there, but we're typically working in CRM. That's the hub. That's a central source of truth. A lot of different teams are in there day in and day out, but we have other systems that connect to them also feeding in data. So anything on the marketing side or extra sales productivity tools for email campaigns and data enrichment so that when the sales team is prospecting, they have account and contact data, and that all feeds into our main CRM. There we use probably the most popular one. So because this is a data conference, I'm going to focus on the data pillar of revenue operations, and that's where my focus is for our team. So I talked about that technology landscape and how there are a lot of different tools that end users are using that feed data into this CRM, and that is our source of truth. And so all of that data is coming in disparate systems, and it's disjointed until it gets into the CRM. So our team and I make sure that data is feeding in correctly so that when we're showing a pipeline dashboard, we want to know where a particular deal came from. Did it come from marketing? Did it come from sales? How are we attributing all of that credit into these dashboards? And so that's the first piece. Then from that, we're able to deliver insights and make strategy recommendations to go-to-market leaders. So if a particular sales effort isn't working, or maybe we can do something different or better, having all of that data in a CRM in one place helps us do that. And then at the end, it empowers the end users like Eliza and other team members to be more data-driven. So if we want to change our sales territories to be more fair or equitable, we can use data to make that decision rather than intuition or feelings. So we are branding our data pillar for our revenue operations team as revenue intelligence. And it's kind of a mix of all of these things: insights, process improvement and strategy recommendations, some data governance, analysis, analytics tools, the enablement, making sure that people have the same definitions for different data points that they're using and making sure that they have the correct context, and then some project management. So knowledge is power, and I think that it's really important for all of the end users and all of these different teams that may not work as closely together, like finance and marketing, for example. Knowing and speaking the same language so that we have consistency across reporting and analytics, driving more accurate forecasting processes, cross-functional alignment, all of those things help these revenue-generating teams bring the dollars in faster. So that's the enablement pillar, but it does support our revenue intelligence, because if we're creating all these dashboards and reports and no one's using them, or they're reading them incorrectly, it's not working, it's not helping. So with that, I think I'm going to pass it to Eliza so she can talk about her team.
Thank you, Asia. Hello again, everyone. Again, my name is Eliza Bray, and I'm Director of Merchant Success for the BreadPay subsidiary. And for me, if I've done nothing else in this presentation, it would be to evangelize the work that Asia and Mindy do to fuel my work. Without them, I would be lost. I'll talk about my startup days, but in those days when we'd have a system go down or a look disappear, I could not do my job. So it's pragmatic and true. I will start by kind of walking through some photos on this slide. It's very New York City focused. That's where I'm based today, in Brooklyn, New York. But in some ways, I maybe should have swapped it out for different vistas, because in T-minus a week, I'm moving to Denver, Colorado, after nearly a decade in New York City. So if anyone has any Denver-based recommendations or cross-country move tips or friends, honestly, for me to make, please, I welcome them. It's a big change. But with that in mind, on the bottom left is a picture of my team. We're distributed all over the country. I have reports in Austin, Texas, and Minnesota. But sometimes I do my best to bring them in and try and wine and dine them and impress them with the view of the New York City skyline. So that's the bottom left there. We manage hundreds of clients. I'll speak to the nature of the client in just a moment, but I will say it ranges from everything from, they're all merchants, people who sell goods, and it ranges from mom and pop shops to large mass merchant brands that you may be more familiar with. And so I've learned a lot about a lot of stuff in this role. I've helped people sell everything from motorized surfboards to bicycles to what I'll kind of mention at the bottom right is one of my big rig auto parts clients who I'm quite close with. But the top right photo is actually a photo from my startup days. So we've made reference to the fact that Alliance Data Systems acquired a startup, and that was mine, which was a Series C startup when I joined, based in New York City. And again, to make reference to scrappy and humble beginnings with Excel spreadsheets and databases all over the place, and it's been extremely exciting to see us get to the next level while maintaining that nimble approach that I've always known, but with enhanced governance and kind of bank grade standards. So back to me and that client. He invited me out to attend their annual Big Rig Trucking Festival in Joplin, Missouri. So that's where that picture is taken. And I think it's a good story to kind of give an example of what I do and what I'm thinking about, both from an individual client perspective and then looking across a portfolio. So I went on the ground to help devise marketing strategies with this client around our buy now, pay later product. people who love their big rigs, I've learned love their big rigs. I go down the highway anymore and I like look at them all and like pay attention to how they've been decking them out. And I help empower this merchant to sell more of their, I don't know all the names, forgive me, but the smokestacks and different elements of the big rigs by making it like an easier option to pay. So I empower these customers to take out loans at point of sale rather than pay out of pocket. So that smokestack instead of being $1,200 today could maybe be $100 a month for 12 months. And so I'm on the ground with the client, coaching them through in-store and e-commerce marketing strategies, talking through their loan programs and financial optimizations. I bring this up only because it speaks to the wealth of data that I need to help coach that client. And then all the ways across our entire portfolio, I'm looking to expand revenue en masse. So just like Asia sort of introduced the revenue operations function, my function thinks of ourselves as those who are charged with realizing, retaining, and growing revenue, both for Bread Financial and our merchant partners, given the nature of what we do. Realization, this echoes something that Mindy called back, and it's cool to see how some of these things remain true, even if you're not directly customer facing, that the sooner I can help that merchant get integrated with our technical solution, the faster they're realizing value, the happier they are with us, and the happier we are as a business. So there's a host of KPIs that go into that about how can we optimize the onboarding journey. I'm focused on retaining those clients, which I think is pretty obvious, but that might mean measuring things like net promoter scores, influx of support tickets, to more granular product level data. Where is the customer journey breaking? Whether that's for my clients or for their customers, our joint customers, how can we optimize that experience? And then we land, we expand. We have an upsell component where we're little mini salespeople as well, but with the consulting heart in mind. So I've hit a lot of what's on this slide, and I will call out, I've made the fatal mistake of a presentation and putting something up text heavy on the right, but as a room full of analytics-based professionals, I think that I wrote them down here so I can read it, that what's here on the right, the 7 components of customer success, this is for institutions. So I am not empowered to do my job unless I have an organization that is as focused on our core clients as I am day in and day out. That also means I'm a little internal lobbyist and I go around and lobby for optimizations, and the data that Mindy and Asia offer me and the tools and dashboards that they empower me with allows me to tell those stories internally. But a few items for food for thought that I care about. Creating a dedicated solution that solves a customer problem, ensuring that the product is easy to use, low on bugs, and highly available. So again, there's many ways to track that. Set the right expectations, acquire good fit customers. Asia made great reference to this. There's opportunities for me to look across a portfolio and say, here's who's winning, here's who needs more help. Are we sourcing the right customers for our business? And then there's quick wins. There's many ways to measure that. Truly my wheelhouse is to build a dedicated customer success program and to deliver world-class support. So kind of to see the forest for the trees and what this data is fueling, I think it speaks to all of those things. Just to keep it moving and be mindful of time, ikigai is a Japanese concept that's often used for individual professions to say, what is my reason for doing my role? How do I find passion in my position? But I saw this graphic on LinkedIn and thought it was a really powerful way to also describe my function, that I see myself as someone who's solving for the business and the customer, and then also my team. If I'm solving for myself and just for myself, well then it's awfully selfish, isn't it? That means I'm constantly going from cross-functional counterparts, from everyone from product to risk to compliance, to saying, how can we do this better on behalf of our customers? Where Asia is going to be absolutely critical for me is also how we attain scale. When I go from hundreds of clients to thousands of clients is both incredibly exciting to me and terrifying, and it will require increased automated strategy and data-fueled insights that we can automate the process. So instead of a person like myself saying, hey, look at all the value we're delivering today, we find ways to work with Asia to pipe in data from our databases and say, oh, this customer is underperforming, how do we trigger an email that encourages them to move on journey? Or, ooh, this customer's doing well, let's create a story more through product marketing about where we're winning. So something disappeared from my slide. I want you to imagine that there's a funnel on the right, and I think that is sort of where I'll end. That so much about my job is expanding the funnel for my merchants. How can we drive more sales for them and capture every single customer and determine where there are breaks in what we're offering up? But I also think the funnel kind of speaks to how all of our roles interlink. I'll wrap by saying that I view my role as telling informed stories that drive value, that drive dollars for our business. I'm telling stories to our customers on behalf of the business, and I'm telling stories about our customers to the business on behalf of the customer, and I could not do it without the women sitting next to me. So with that, I think we're prepared to wrap. Again, we wish we had time for questions, but we know we're running behind, so please grab us afterwards. Thanks, everyone.